Greetings, friends, and welcome to another ministry here on YouTube of the Victory Hour, a ministry that is brought to you by the Lord's people at Clayville Assembly in Foster, Rhode Island. My name is Jim Gallagher. I am the pastor at Clayville Assembly. And if you want to contact me, my email address, info@clayvilleassembly.com. Info@clayvilleassembly.com, or you can write to me, snail mail, the Victory Hour, P.O. Box 222, Foster, Rhode Island, 02825. Well, welcome back. I wasn't around on Monday, right? That's because, I messed up. Hey, it happens. But, I had made a YouTube posting to be released on Thursday. And I entitled it, what was the title of that? America is becoming like professional wrestling, something like that. America is becoming like professional wrestling. And that was part one. And then, and that was to be released on Thursday. Usually I'll make them a few days ahead of time. Just because of my schedule, I have to do it that way. And then I said, I want to get ahead and make one for Monday. But I forgot I knew I made the other one, but I forgot that I had released it for Thursday, and I was making it on Wednesday. And then I said, okay, so let me post this, and I posted it to release on Thursday. So what I did was, rather than having the first part of America is becoming like professional wrestling, what a stupid name for a title. But, it means something to me anyway. The first part of that was released on Thursday. The second part was supposed to be released on Monday, because I always release videos on Mondays and Thursdays, and I like to be like clockwork if I can. And but instead, I released them both the same day. So you got part one and part two showing up the same day. Some people may have thought it was the same thing, and they didn't really notice that there were two parts. But so I see I'm going away, and so I have to make them a little bit ahead of time, and I just got my calendar all mixed up in my head. So you've still got Mondays. You've still got Mondays posting. You just got it early is what it boils down to. So sorry for the mistake. I didn't go away. I didn't fall off the edge of the earth on Monday. It's just I released the Monday one a little too soon. But here we are again. And I will be. I'm still, my going away is still in the future. It's in the soon future. And so I have to get things done ahead of time, and that's what I'm doing. Now, I told you last time that I wanted to leave for a while the subject of the errors of dispensationalism. Let me make, and because I'm just, I don't want to do dispensationalism forever as if this channel is about refuting dispensationalism. No, and so I'm not going to do a 100-part series, though that could be done. I'm not going to do that, or if I do, I'm not going to do it all at once, so I'm going to take a break, but I'm going to do a little more today. I'm not sure what I'll do next week, because next week is my last opportunity to make some YouTubes for you, and then when I go away, when I go away for a week or so, my normal way I handle it is if I can't make them ahead of time to keep them coming, I'll post a sermon up from Clayville Assembly, something that hasn't been on YouTube, so that you have something showing up on Mondays and Thursdays. So I'm not sure what I'll do next week. Maybe I'll continue with dispensationalism and then make the break, or maybe I'll make the break next time I'm out here on YouTube. We'll find out. I'll find out. But we've been talking about, I just want to make a comment here. That the last two I posted, America has become like professional wrestling. Not really a very descriptive title to say, oh yeah, I was interested in that subject. Let me listen to it. Look, I know that. But it just struck me I was on the internet and I saw some nonsense that was on there, and I realized, the American people in large swaths have become very gullible to manipulators. And it reminded me of back in the 70s, going to professional wrestling matches at Jack Ritchie's Sports Arena in Attleboro, or North Attleboro, Massachusetts, back when it used to exist. And we used to go there to laugh at how crazy the environment was and the people were, because they all, so many of them thought that professional wrestling was a real sport. And we'd laugh our heads off at the craziness. And in the 70s, there was a lot more craziness going on at those places, let me tell you, than they'd ever allow now. And it was something else. But it was a window like, wow, are we that bad? Are we that low rent and low IQ? And I'm beginning to feel the same way now. I mean, look at everything that's happening around our nation. Now, look, I don't want to repeat the last two YouTubes. So I'm just explaining my crazy title, but the title fits, at least in my warped mind. All right, now let me leave that behind. So today I want to I'm not going to handle the subject in any kind of thorough manner. In a one-time shot, I believe a one-time shot, I just want to give you a synopsis of the problem that Daniel 9 represents to dispensationalism. One of the errors of dispensationalism is their hack job as Bible literalists, supposedly, their hack job as Bible literalists on Daniel chapter 9. Because they are not taking Daniel 9 at face value. You talk about eisegesis? And the thing is, the dispensationalists think, oh, Daniel 9, we own Daniel 9. Well, they'll talk about Daniel 9 all day long, which is only a manifestation that we've entered into the amateur hour. It's true. Daniel 9 is not as central as they imagine it to be, but it is central for their dispensational thinking. I just want to give you the big elephant in the room in Daniel 9 today. But before I get to it, I'll get to it in a minute, I just want to read from Matthew chapter 13, okay? Why is there so much division amongst the people of God when we're supposedly reading the same Bible? Of course, we're not reading the same Bible. One guy has the ESV, one guy has the NIV, one guy has the RSV, one guy has the NASB, one guy has the Woman Thou Art Loose Bible. But we're supposed to be reading the same Christian scriptures, the Old and New Testament. Can't we come to some kind of agreement? Why is there such division? Well, there's reasons for that. And the reasons aren't any different than they ever were. Because humanity isn't any different than it ever was. Jesus spoke in parables, oftentimes. Sometimes he'd use illustrations to make a point plain to the common man. But in many other instances, he spoke in parables not to make the point plain, but to reveal it to his elect and to hide it from the phonies. Now, in the parable of the sower and the rocky ground and the sun coming up and the fowls of the air snatching the seed, that whole parable, that we're told in verse 10 of, he gives the parable at the beginning of chapter 13. But of Matthew 13, verse 10, we read, And the disciples came and said unto him, Why speakest thou unto them in parables? Because the disciples want to know, what is the meaning of this parable? And why do you speak to the people in parables? I mean, we're with you all the time, and we're not figuring them out on our own. So why do you talk to them that way? Isn't that an excellent question? Well, listen to Jesus' answer. He answered and said unto them, Because it is given unto you to know the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven, but to them it is not given. Is the Lord hiding the mysteries of the kingdom of heaven from the majority of people? Yes. He continues, For whosoever hath, to him shall be given, and he shall have more abundance. For whosoever hath not, from him shall be taken away, even that he hath. I think this explains, not all, and I don't know what percentage, but I think this explains a lot of the division in the Christian community. Therefore speak I to them in parables, because they seeing, see not, and hearing, they hear not, neither do they understand. I just asked the question, how can all us Christians be reading the Bible and come up with all these different things? This is part of the reason. It's not the whole reason, but this is, in many instances, this is the reason. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Esaias, which saith, By hearing ye shall hear, and shall not understand. And seeing ye shall see, and shall not perceive. See, every eye shall see him. Did they perceive his coming? They surely did. Verse 15, For this people's heart, he's talking about the children of Israel, this people's heart is waxed gross, and their ears are dull of hearing, and their eyes they have closed. Notice, they have closed their own eyes. It's an act of rebellion. They don't want to see what God is saying. They don't want to, so they won't. They have closed their own eyes. Lest at any time, and here's why they have closed their eyes. Lest at any time they should see with their eyes. See, they don't want to see. They'll heap to themselves teachers having itching ears. And hear with their ears. They don't want to hear the truth. You want proof? Walk in the doors at Clavel. We're not that large of an assembly, and there's a reason for it in this day. They should see with their eyes and hear with their ears and should understand with their heart. They don't want to understand with their heart and should be converted. They don't want to be converted, and I should heal them. They don't want healing, not if it comes at the price of having to receive the fullness of his truth. That's rebellion masquerading as religion and as discipleship, disciples of Christ. It's rebellion. It's unbelief. But blessed are your eyes, Jesus says, for they see, and your ears, for they hear. For verily I say unto you that many prophets and righteous men have desired to see those things which ye see, and have not seen them, and to hear those things which ye hear, and have not heard them. And what a privilege and blessing we have, because we have the canon of Scripture. We have the new covenant written down by inspiration and by divine preservation. And so we can study these things and learn, but still it's going to be true. There'll be many that see, but they don't see. They'll hear, but they won't hear. They confess, but they're in a state of rebellion, and they don't really believe. Many shall say to him in that day, Lord, Lord, we prophesied in your name, we cast out devils in your name, we did many wonderful works in your name. He'll say, depart from me. You workers of iniquity, I never knew you. Don't be one of them, because Jesus said many. I can't point to this person, that person, and this person and say, yeah, this is that guy, that guy, that guy. The Lord knows. And this is part of the problem of why there's division in the Christian community. Just understand. Just like it was in the days of Jesus. And amongst the children of Israel, you had a righteous remnant. But the others paid homage to following Moses, but their heart was far from Christ and from God. And so it is today. See, just so you know. Okay, I got to get to the subject matter at hand. Let's get over to Daniel chapter 9. Bad enough to try and go through Daniel 9 in 15 minutes. You know, you need a long series on Daniel 9 to really prove your point. So my goal in doing this is not to introduce a new sub-series of the errors of dispensationalism. Let's talk about Daniel 9, because that would take, at least 3, 4, maybe 5, 6, maybe 10, maybe 15. It depends how you do it. Separate half-hour postings. I don't want to get into that now. I want to leave the subject of dispensationalism for a while. This isn't the anti-dispensationalism channel, but it needs to be rebuked, and the errors need to be corrected. And I want to help people that are caught in that system, of which there are many. And I don't have any ill will towards them. I was in a dispensational church once, and I realized I had to come out of it. And I hope some of you can come to the same conclusion over the course of time, by God's help and grace. So Daniel chapter 9, my goal isn't to interpret the whole thing for you. I can't do that and prove my points. I just want to really just show you the elephant in the room, how the dispensationalists have very hypocritically done a hack job on this in just a broad term that's easy to see. So let's get involved with the text because we got to get going here. So I'm going to pick it up at verse 24. Well, I'll read 23, a little context here. At the beginning of thy supplications, the commandment came forth, and I am come to show thee, for thou art greatly beloved, speaking to Daniel. Therefore understand the matter and consider the vision. Now, this is Gabriel giving the vision, explaining the vision to Daniel. 70 weeks I determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression, and to make an end of sins, and to make reconciliation for iniquity, and to bring in everlasting righteousness, and to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. Let me stop there. That's verse 24. So we're being told that 70 weeks are determined upon thy people. Now, Gabriel is speaking to Daniel. When he says thy people, who is he speaking about? God's covenant people, Israel. No argument there. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city. This 70-week period, certain things are going to happen, and it's going to come upon the children of Israel and the holy city, Jerusalem. All right, we can understand that. Now, when he says 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city, then he lists out the things that must happen within the delimiting time period specified in verse 24, being 70 weeks. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to... See, so within this 70-week period, these things have been determined to transpire upon the children of Israel and Jerusalem. And what are these 6 things that must happen in this 70-week period? Number 1, finish the transgression. Number 2, make an end of sins. Number 3, make reconciliation for iniquity. Number 4, bring in everlasting righteousness. Number 5, seal up the vision and prophecy. And number 6, anoint the most holy. These 6 things must transpire within the predicted time frame of 70 weeks. Now, something you got to understand. The 70 weeks is a reference. The Hebrew word for weeks really just means sevens. And the word does not specify. It doesn't require an understanding of 7 days, 7 hours, 7 minutes, 7 seconds, 7 years. Just a grouping of 7. So we have 70 sevens. Literally, that's what you could translate that as. 70 sevens are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city. So the only way we know 7 what? Are they days, weeks, months, years? Well, the only way we can know is context. Now, fortunately, in the Christian community, whether you're pre-trib, post-trib, mid-trib, odd-trib, premillennial, postmillennial, amillennial, Reformed, Arminian, Calvinist, doesn't matter. We are all in agreement that the sevens represents sevens of years. We're talking years. And the context demands that understanding because nothing else will come anywhere close to fulfilling it. And when you make it as years, and that seems very natural, then wow, what a prophecy. Yeah, this is the word of God. And it has come to pass. So we're all in agreement that the 77s is 77s of years. So 77s of years, 70 times 7 is 490. We're talking a prophecy of 490 years. So you could read it this way. 490 years are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city to finish the transgression, to make an end of sins, to make reconciliation for iniquity, to bring in the everlasting righteousness, to seal up the vision and prophecy, and to anoint the most holy. That must happen in 77s of years, in 490 years, right? Now, let's see. What is it that has to happen in the 490-year time frame? Well, to go into this in detail and prove my points would require a longer series. I'm not going to do that. See, I'm not going to prove my points. I'm just going to kind of skim them with you and show you what's being said. 77s, 490 years, 70 weeks, are determined upon thy people, Israel, and upon thy holy city, Jerusalem, to finish the transgression. Was the transgression finished within the 490-year period? I'm saying yes. Well, even without knowing any details, that must be true because that's the prophecy. Within that 490-year period, God's people and the city of Jerusalem would finish the transgression. Now, there's a couple different ways you could take that. It's somewhat of a generic designation, but there is some specificity, am I saying that right? To that, right? Finish the transgressions. Remember, Jesus said, fill up the measure of your fathers. You murdered the prophets, now fill ye up their measure. And what did he mean? They were going to crucify him. And Jesus knew it and he's calling them out. You murdered the prophets, now fill up the measure of your fathers. And murder the Christ himself. Did they fill up the measure of their sin? They did. 70 weeks are determined upon thy people and upon thy holy city. By the way, that doesn't mean sin ceased to exist after the crucifixion in Jerusalem amongst the Jewish people. But in prophetic terms, that which has been established, 70 weeks are determined upon thy people, 490 years upon thy holy city, to finish the transgression. So they would fill up the measure of their sins. Someone could also look at this as saying, through the cross, Christ brought an end to Israel's transgressions. Through his death, burial, and resurrection, he legally purchased redemption for his people Israel. Now, well, how do you know which way to take it? We're not going to get into that now. But either way, this was fulfilled. That's all I want you to see. We don't have to go into the weeds now. We can come back sometime down the road, probably months down the road, and we can go through this in detail. Finish the transgression to make an end of sins. So, number one, finish the transgression. Number two, make an end of sins, which could be taken to be very similar to the first thing, but I think they have to be distinctive, because they're listed separately. So, to make an end of sins. So, within the 490-year period that is prophesied on the children of Israel and the city of Jerusalem, their transgression would be finished, and the end of sin would be brought about. Now, that's obviously through Christ. Or you could also translate that or interpret that as make an end of sins in the sense of Christ's atoning work for his people Israel. He came to redeem Israel from her sins, and he did that. So let's not get in the weeds to divide this up and see which camp is right. They both would be fulfilled in the first century. And the first century is within the 490-year time period. Going from the public ministry of Christ up until his ascension is still within the 490 years. Well, that's two things. Number 3, make reconciliation for iniquity. Was reconciliation for iniquity made in the first century in the lifetime of Christ? Yes, it was. That was his work on the cross. It happened. Next, to bring in everlasting righteousness. Well, that can only be through the imputed righteousness of Christ, through that covenant relationship that we can have with God through Israel's Messiah. Everlasting righteousness is through God's grace by the blood of Christ. Did that transpire in the first century? Yes, it did. What's the next item? To seal up the vision and prophecy. Now, that can be taken a couple different ways. One way to take that is, well, all prophecy would be fulfilled. The visions and the prophecy would be fulfilled, sealed up. Yeah, but I'm not 100% convinced that you can be dogmatic on that interpretation, because I don't see sealed up really being specifically used that way. You see, to fulfill the prophets and fulfilling prophecy, but sealing them up, you seal something up to protect it, right? You put a seal on the stone at the entrance to Jesus' tomb saying, nobody touch this or else. Rome, you see. So to seal up the vision and prophecy, it could mean the fulfillment of prophecy, but the use of the word seal for fulfillment, it seems a little forced to me. But there's another way to take it. To seal up the vision and prophecy, meaning to seal up, close up, right? You close it up to protect it. To seal up vision and prophecy. You seal up vision. In other words, the visions stop. You seal up prophecy. The prophecies stop. Did the Lord put an end to prophets and visions and dreams in this 490-year period? He most certainly did. Because after Malachi, no visions, no dreams, no revelations until John the Baptist came along to introduce Christ. It is at the coming of Christ that the prophetic office was opened up again, first in John the Baptist. Wow. Did it happen in the first century? Yeah. That's all I really want you to see. As opposed to which way to take it. It's not my point today. It's just to show you these things happened. And then the last thing, I'm running out of time. You know, I'm going to have to maybe make this a two-parter. I'll make it a two-parter. I'm finding it hard to leave the errors of dispensationalism. But I'm not going to go beyond the next video to talk about Daniel 9. Well, we got the last thing that must happen, and that is to anoint the most holy. I'm not going to get into that now. We'll talk about that next time. So what I want you to see is, as someone who is not a dispensationalist, I believe all this happened just as Daniel said. The dispensationalists do not. You say, that's not true, Pastor Gallagher. Well, tune in next time, and I'll show you how it is true. And I hope it's helpful and instructive, and in the end can end up being the trigger to great blessings and illumination for many believers in Christ, that they would be liberated from the bondage of the errors of our day. It happens in every generation. Let's not be surprised. That's the human condition. Well, look, I got to go. I want to thank you for watching. This is Jim Gallagher reminding you in the words of our blessed Lord and Savior, "You shall know the truth, and the truth, if you believe it, shall make you free."